What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the In Love with Horror podcast. We are your hosts. I'm AJ.
And I'm Kristie. Join us for a love affair with all things horror as we explore the world of horror films, games, and everything in between.
All right, y'all. Well, look, we got another great episode for y'all today. We're going to be talking, of course, about the new trailers that dropped this week. And we got some dope trailers this week, including a new trailer for a new VHS movie, which I'm stupid excited about. We also got a second trailer for another horror movie that's coming out pretty soon, and an interesting show that's coming to Hulu. So stay tuned for that. And then for news, it was kind of a slow week, y'all. So we're kind of light on news, but we still got some great topics we're going to talk about, including a actress that's suing Warner Brothers, and you may know this actress because they're in a very big horror franchise. So we're getting to that in the news section. And then the main topic for today, we're going to be covering a horror film that came out this year that didn't do too great, but it has now got a new life on streaming, and that's all about the Pope's Exorcist. So you may have seen that it's kind of gone viral on social media. Like, everyone's talking about it now that it's on Netflix. And it's kind of got this renewed life on streaming. So we figured we'd dive in, talk about it, and also, give our thoughts, but then also talk about the story that it's based on, the real life story of Father Amorth. So we'll get into that as the main topic. So stay tuned. All that and more coming on in Love with Horror Podcast. All right, y'all. With that, as we always do, before we get started, we're gonna jump into what we watched this week. We'll start with you first, baby. What you watched this week?
Yeah, so I watched a indie film called Brightwood, which is now available on streaming, wherever, Amazon, all those places. And it was okay. It had a really, I would say, strong plot. Mm-hmm. It had really good performances. There were some surprising things in it. So overall, I was pretty satisfied. But basically, it's about this couple. They're having some issues in their marriage. They go on a run. Well, the wife goes on a run, and the husband just follows her because he feels guilty about what he did the night before. And they end up running around this pond, and then they can't get out from that area. So they're like stuck running in a loop, and a bunch of crazy stuff happens. It's written and directed by Dane Elcar, who actually made a short called The Pond some years ago. And so this film is based off that short. It is very similar, but a little bit different. So if you watch the short, which I did, I watched it on YouTube. It's a little bit different, but I still would check it out. It was pretty good. I talked about it on my TikTok if you want my more in-depth thoughts about it. But yeah, that's what I watched this week.
Yeah, and I actually remember the trailer for this one because we actually talked about that trailer on one of the episodes of the podcast previously.
Yep.
And I thought the trailer was interesting. Like, obviously, it is a tighter budget film, but I thought the premise looked very interesting. So it's cool to hear that the concept was kind of fully realized and delivered within the constraints of the budget. And what about the performances? Because I know since it just features that main couple, how are that's going to be a lot of the film, right? It's going to be carried by the performances. So how was that?
I thought it was really good, especially because I don't want to give too much of it away because there's some things that happen where they have to really be on. And so I think they did a really good job of actually getting the point across. And like I told you, they basically having some issues. The husband, he was kind of like a douchebag. And so he plays that pretty good.
Okay.
And then obviously the wife, she's like fed up with his bullshit. And I think she does that really good too. Like she's really irritated with his ass most of the movie. And this stuff changes later on. You know what I'm saying? They got, the dynamic kind of changes a bit. But I think they did good for them to just be the only two people in the movie. I thought they did a really good job.
That's good to hear. I'm gonna have to definitely check this out when I get a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's what you watch. For me, I've been I'm not gonna say catching up, but I've been rewatching the Conjuring universe. I should say that's something that we've both been doing. We've been revisiting the Conjuring universe because we got the Nun 2 coming out pretty soon. And the plan right now for all of our listeners is we're going to be doing a Conjuring Universe ranking video that'll drop right before the Nun 2 comes out. So you can kind of hear from us our thoughts on the entire franchise and kind of where we stand on which ones are the best and which ones are the worst. So I've already gone through a couple of the films, and it's been really cool to revisit these because some of these I've only seen like a couple times. Some of them I've seen a lot. So it's been cool to go back and revisit these films. I'm excited for us to do that video about the Conjuring universe. So make sure y'all are subscribed and following us on everything because you're gonna want to see that video because it's gonna be a lot of fun, especially leading up to the Nun 2. But that's what I've been watching this week is all things The Conjuring. And with that, y'all, we'll get into all of the horror trailers that dropped this week. We actually got a lot of trailers that dropped this week for a lot of different things, and they honestly all look pretty interesting. Starting off the top, we got the trailer that excited me the most, and that is for a new VHS film, VHS 85, y'all. And just like VHS 99 that came out last year, it's going to be coming to Shudder on October 6th. And here is a synopsis for it, and it reads, an ominous broadcast brings viewers forgotten nightmares of the 1980s. A disaster recovery crew unleashes the wrath of an ancient god. And it's listing out the different descriptions for the different shorts. So that's one. A lake that brings the dead back to life. That's two. A performance art piece makes contact with a creature from the beyond. That's three. An all guns out undead bloodbath. And a disturbing vision of a videotaped murders. So they all sound very interesting. They sound crazy. In the trailer, I'll say that in the trailer, like you don't really get to get a good glimpse at everything. I feel like because everything happens kind of fast. But all those concepts sound amazing. Now let's get into some of the players behind the filmmaking. We'll start with the directors for the shorts, and the directors include David Bruckner, who you may know from Southbound, The Ritual, and segments from previous VHS films. Scott Derrickson, y'all, is going to be directing a short in this, and y'all know I'm a big fan of Scott Derrickson. We also got Natasha Kermani, you may know from Lucky and Imitation Girl. We got Mike P. Nelson from Wrong Turn and The Domestics, and we got Gigi Saul Guerrero. The writing credits are attributed to those named above. I've read it named above because I'm reading the notes. The writing credits are attributed to those I just named, y'all. As well as C. Robert Cargill, who wrote Sinister, The Black Phone, Sinister 2, all works closely with Scott Derrickson. Evan Dixon, who helped with Totem, and Zoe Cooper, who contributed to VHS 99. It stars a plethora of actors and actresses, including James Ranson, who was the deputy in the Sinister movies, and Eddie in It Chapter 2. I'm sure y'all remember that. Jordan Belfi, who was in shows like Entourage and All American. Danny Diete, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, sorry y'all, who played Gigi in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and she was also in Ozark. But man, that's actually like some great performers in this film. Now, like I said, the trailer was like a very fast paced montage. You got a feel of the tone and the vibe in the trailer. I think from what I could see from the trailer, all of the shorts are going to have I'm just going to call it the 80s filter over it, that VHS filter where it looks like it was filmed with a camera from the 80s. It looks like they all have that feel. It's heavy on the 80s vibe, from the Shudder original logo to the music and so on. But hearing the concept of the shorts plus seeing the vibe of the trailer has me super excited. I liked last year's VHS 99 that came out in October last year too. And there were some cool some cool concepts and shorts in that film that I really liked. And I feel like, after VH2, we kind of hit a point where I feel like VHS was kind of, on a downward turn. Viral wasn't that great. I think 94 was whatever. 99 I thought was pretty good. I think my main thing with the VHS films is I feel like they've kind of lost sight of the overarching story outside of the tapes. I feel like they just haven't figured out what to do with that, or it just doesn't it doesn't feel the same like the first two films did. And I wish they did a better job of writing that portion along with the shorts. But all that to say that I actually didn't even know this was coming out, so it was a pleasant surprise for me this week, and I'm very excited for it. Baby, you saw this trailer. What'd you think about it?
I agree with you. I liked the whole 80s vibe. It felt like it was going to be good. So it seems exciting. Like you said, with combination of reading what the actual stories are about, makes me very, interested in trying to check this one out. I didn't watch the 99 one, but I did, like the earlier VHS ones. So I definitely will be checking this one out.
Yeah, I remember I put you on to the VHS ones.
You did.
Yeah, I was like, look, you gotta see these films. Them first two was crazy as hell. Yeah, like some unforgettable.
That was back in the day when you was putting me on to everything. I think you showed me those. You showed me Sinister.
That was a good period. That was a good period in horror for sure. But yeah, yo, that's VHS 85 again, coming to Shudder and AMC Plus on October 6th. So make sure y'all get ready for that. I'm super hyped for that. And I'm telling y'all, October is looking like a great month for horror.
Yeah,
because I feel like some Octobers we don't get a lot of drops, but I feel like this October is filling up, and we're gonna get a lot of dope movies, shows, like all of the above, y'all. I'm excited.
Yeah, not even just new stuff, but even older stuff is coming back to live streaming services. I know Peacock, for one. I saw an article earlier today. They're putting 100 Halloween and like horror movies on their service just for October. Like, so, across the board, there's going to be some good stuff available to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time, man. It's going to be a good year horror-wise in October. All right, y'all, moving on to the next trailer. We got a second trailer for the film It Lives Inside. Now, this film is coming out to theaters on September 22nd. It's being directed and written by Vishal Dutta, and this is actually his first feature-length film. He has directed 19 short films, which have been honored at more than a dozen film festivals around the world. So the dude's got the accolades, and now he's getting the opportunity to flex his muscle in a feature-length film. The film stars Megan Suri, Neeru Bajwa, Mohana Krishnan, and Betty Gabriel. I probably pronounced those incorrectly, and I do apologize, but honestly, all the performances look really good in this trailer. Overall, this, we've kind of tracked the progress of the marketing of this film in this podcast. And I can say that with each new trailer or whatever that came out, poster, all that, it slowly like built up my excitement for this film. And this, I would say this last trailer, I was like, damn.
That looks good.
This looks good, y'all. Like this shit bringing the heat. Like I was like, wow, like it actually looks very creepy. There's some great shots in there. Some, I think, like very like eerie shots, like the kind of shots where when you lay down in your bed at night and the lights are off, and you're looking in and you actually forgot to close the closet, or you're looking in the corner and it's dark. You think you see some eyes or something like that. Like it's like those type of shots and vibes are in the trailer. And so I'm like, dang, like this movie has the potential to be really creepy. And then it deals with, I think the culture in the film is of Indian culture, like a Hindu based, right? Demon or something like that. So super different than, something that I've ever seen in a film. There may be others I'm just not familiar with, but this is the first time I've seen something like this in the mainstream for Western horror. And it just looks really good. I'm excited for it. What do you think about the trailer?
Absolutely agree with what you said. I liked the last trailer, but this one was like more amplified, and it gave us a lot more of what we should expect in the actual movie.
Yeah.
I think the first trailer we got, a little bit more of the lore and the story behind it, but this time it was like scare scenes and shots and,
Yeah, it was like,
more of the players involved. So
yeah.
I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like when they dragged the teacher across the
Oh,
hall,
that was
like down the
crazy.
hall of school. I was like, okay.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So it looks like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I like that shot, and then some of the like dark scenes with the eyes and just the overall vibe. Like it looks like it's gonna be kind of. It might even be a little brutal because there's that part with the like the person was like a swing set and he's getting jacked up or
Oh
something. I was
yes.
like, what
Oh
the
yes. I
heck?
meant to write that down. But yeah, it's like it whipped him up into the thing. It looked like it was gonna wrap the thing
Yeah, I
around his
was
neck,
like,
but they didn't show all of it. But yeah,
this
I was like,
demon
okay,
thing
this
is
is gonna
about to
be
go
crazy.
ham.
Yeah.
This is looking really good, y'all. I'm slowly getting more and more excited. Like this is definitely got to be something that we go see, immediately Thursday night type of movie. But again, that's It Lives Inside, y'all. That's the second trailer. Make sure you check out that trailer. And that film is coming to theaters again on September 22nd, and it's looking real good. Now, moving on, we got a trailer for a new, not a new, but a series that's dropping a new season, and that is for Creepshow. So Creepshow is getting a 4th season over on Shudder and AMC Plus. It's dropping on October 13th. And if you're not familiar with Creepshow, it's a series that's based on George A. Romero's iconic 1982 horror comedy classic film. And it's basically like a anthology series. So every episode is its own tale of terror. And those tales are coming back to haunt you this October with the 4th season. And so this trailer kind of gives you an idea. It gives you a little taste of what's coming for the season. And it definitely is keeping that same like campy, kind of creepy vibe. Because it's comedy, but there's definitely still some scares in there. And I did a TikTok on this actually, and one thing that I mentioned that I really liked in the trailer that I saw. Now neither of us have ever seen the other seasons, so I don't know if the other seasons are the same way, and if they are, I gotta go back and check them out. But the
Yeah.
practical effects were looking really good. Like the creatures, I thought were looking really good in the trailer. And honestly, the show just looked like a lot of fun. But I know I really liked the trailer. I think it got me at least excited to want to go back and catch up so I can be prepped to watch this in October. But what do you think about it when you saw it?
Yeah. I actually I didn't know they had a series
Yeah.
called Creepshow. And so the trailer to me was new. It was a new experience. So I had never seen the other trailers or any of the other shows. So to me, I was thinking about like an adult version of like Goosebumps
Oh, right.
or Are You Afraid of the Dark or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I do want to watch the other seasons because I want to see, how the show is. I know some people say it wasn't good, like the earlier seasons weren't that good. But I want to check it out for myself. It looked interesting. I think I might actually like it. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna go back, like you said, and watch the earlier seasons. There was one part in the trailer where, like in the background, like this body fell and hit the ground.
Oh yeah. That effect sounded. It was
Dang.
nasty sounding. Yeah, it was brutal. Yep, I do remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to check that out for real.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I can't speak to the other seasons, but at least this new season making us want to go back and check it out. So
yeah,
we'll probably have to do that so we can catch up and watch this new season when it drops on October 13th, y'all. And that's Creepshow over on Shudder and AMC Plus. Now, the next film that got a trailer this week is for a film called My Animal. And the synopsis reads, Heather, an outcast teenage goalie in a small northern town, falls for newcomer Johnny, an alluring but tormented figure skater. As their relationship deepens, Heather's growing desires clash with her darkest secret, forcing her to control the animal within. It's being directed by Jacqueline Castle and written by Jay Matthews, who have both worked on music videos previously. So this should be kind of interesting because we've seen other people who've done music videos and transitioned to feature films. I think even who was it? Steven Spielberg did some music videos or something like that. And I might be misspoken there, but there is some famous director out there who did some music videos before, and I thought it was him. Could be somebody else. But it stars Amandla Stenberg, who you may know from The Hate You Give, Bodies, 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 and Hunger Games, and Bobby Salvor Munez. And this film is getting a theatrical release on September 8th and a digital release on September 15th. So we got some options there that are pretty close together. And I thought this trailer looked interesting. It's got that like very like artistic artsy vibe to it,
Yeah,
And
so like when I saw that they made music videos, I was like, okay, now the trailer makes sense.
yeah, you know what? You're right. It did have like kind of like a music video vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
like the way the trailer is cut is like a music
Yeah.
video. Even like from the more sensual scenes, like them
Yep.
kissing and touching and all that
Yeah.
stuff. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
can see that. Yeah, it seemed interesting. I like the idea. I think and speaking of, so now that I'm kind of diving into it and thinking about music videos, and I'm seeing all the different shots that are in there, and it's making me think of music videos. Even like her looking up and her eyes changing, or having the fangs come out. Like all I can see is music playing to it. Like yeah, it's now I'm like stuck on it. So, but I mean, the story sounds interesting. I think it'll be kind of like
Yeah.
one of those films where it could end up being like a very beautiful film. Obviously, it's going to be some drama at play. It's going to be some sort of love story.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how much of the horror element's going to play into it.
Yeah.
But I think we'll at least get some beautiful visuals. And speaking of that, though, I just had a thought of like a good example of what I mean by that. It's not a horror film, but there was a film that came out back in 2021 called The Green Knight, and it was an A24 film, and like it wasn't a whole lot of like action or anything, but like visually, like the visual storytelling of it, like the colors, the shots, like it was very striking. And that's kind of what like absorbed you and like pulled you in. Even there wasn't really like no action or nothing like that going on. Like the trailers would lead you to believe. So I think we can get like something in that vein. But yeah, I mean, I thought this looked interesting. I think I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm excited, but I think I would at least attempt to check it out. What do you think?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned A24 because that's kind of what I thought about when I watched the trailer. It has A24 vibes.
Yep.
The synopsis doesn't say, but the girl basically is like a werewolf, and she's trying to keep this secret from this girl that she likes. I guess that's what it seems like.
Yep.
And like her family are also werewolves, and they are trying to. I don't know if they're trying to protect her or if they just don't want their secret getting out. It doesn't really explain all that, but it does have like that visual musical movement style, all that stuff kind of like wrapped up into one.
Yeah.
And I know Amanda, she's a really great actress. I'm not familiar with the other lead actress, so I'm not sure but about how her performance would be, but it does look like it could be a good watch. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure, like you said, I'm not sure about the horror elements aside from the fact that she's a werewolf. Will we see her eating people or what? Right. I don't know, but it does look, like you said, it looks interesting. It does look interesting.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're definitely right. It does look very interesting. And sorry, I was actually trying to look up because I mentioned like the famous director.
Oh, no, you're trying to find who? Yeah,
I was trying to see if I could look it up real quick. I mentioned Steven Spielberg. And apparently,
we did talk about a movie not too long ago on the podcast that was being either directed or produced by a band or something like that. I don't remember. It was like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it also, I just want to say, like, queer horror movies are like on the rise, and I think just for that reason alone, we should support it and watch it anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to support that film. Like I really liked that one movie that we watched. I watched it a while ago. Now I can't remember the name of it, but that was also like a queer horror sci-fi movie. It was really, really good.
Which one was that?
I don't think you watched it, but I told you about it.
Oh, okay.
It was like the couple, and she was like stuck on a loop, like a time loop. I told you about it.
I think you may have mentioned it, but I can't recall what you said.
Well, anyways, just for that reason, y'all should watch it and support it. And it's also an indie film.
Yeah. Earlier I had mentioned, about the famous directors directing a music video. I mentioned Steven Spielberg, and apparently he just recently shot his first music video or something like that.
Okay.
And it looks like he might have shot it on an iPhone. I mean, I just Googled this super real quick.
That's funny.
But I guess I wasn't wrong, but
Yeah, but you wasn't right either.
But I wasn't fully 100% right either, y'all. But yeah, I'm sure y'all go look it up. There's definitely some famous directors who have done music videos and have transitioned to films and done pretty good. I'm sure somebody in the comments can let us know who those directors are. But anyway, y'all, let's move on to the next film that we got here. And as a reminder, that last one that we talked about was called My Animal. And again, that's coming out on September 8th in theaters and September 15th in digital release. Now, the next trailer we're talking about, this is actually for... Now, is this I can't remember. Is this a series or a movie?
It's a series.
Okay, it is a series. Okay. So this is for a horror series that's coming out on Hulu. It's going to be streaming on September 13th. And it's called The Other Black Girl. And it's based on the New York Times bestseller by, Zakiya. Okay, Zakiya Delilah Harris. And the synopsis reads, Nella, an editorial assistant, is often marginalized as the only black girl at her company. So she's excited when Hazel is hired. As Hazel begins to rise, Nella discovers something sinister is going on at the company. Directors for the episodes include Mariama Diallo, who you may know from Master, Aurora Guerrero, and Naima Ramos Chapman, who you may know from Body Cam. It stars Sinclair Daniel, we just saw her in Insidious: The Red Door, and Ashley Murray. And again, that's coming on Hulu on September 13th. And I thought the trailer was actually pretty good. And it's funny though, because when it first started, I was like, what is this? Like,
it's super funny because, people, I love to read, right? So I'm on book communities. And when people talked about this book, no one ever said that it was a horror book. They always talk about it as if it's, like a contemporary or, a drama or whatever.
Right.
And so I never read it because I'm not really into contemporary books or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, if I had known it was like this, I would have read the book.
Right. Because the horror knob gets cranked up in the trailer.
Yeah,
it gets
it does.
real weird and creepy. Like maybe it's actually hard to tell like what was going on, which I kind of like. Like I couldn't tell if it was like a stalker situation or like, is she getting drugged or like...
Right, you don't know.
Is she in a different dimension because she keeps seeing this reflection that's like, trying to reach her or message her or something, like, trying to tap through the mirror. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, it was super weird. But I remember when it first started, I was like, because you guys sent me this trailer, and I'm like, what is this?
Why would I send you this?
Right, and I'm like, is this a horror? Because it definitely doesn't start out like that, And the concept is really cool. Like I like the idea of them playing with that concept of the only black girl in the office. Because I've been there. I've been in meetings. I'm the only black person in the meeting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been there too.
Right, and it can be super weird. There's just a lot of dynamics with that. So I'm sure that the show will, talk about that and play into that, and then flip it on its head with this horror aspect with the other black girl coming into the picture. So this looks really interesting. I will definitely at least start the series to see where it goes. I'm sure it's going to have that mystery element where it's going to build up to hopefully a good conclusion. I don't know if it's I don't know if I saw yet anywhere if this is just like a kind of one and done, like limited series, one season, or if they're going to try to draw it out to multiple seasons. Not sure. But at least I am interested. What do you think overall about the trailer?
Yeah, I was like, okay. Cause like you, when I first watched it, I was like, oh, what is this? I was just intrigued by the title because I knew it was a book. And then Sinclair Daniel, which like I told you, I really liked her in Insidious: The Red Door. When I saw her, I was like, oh, okay, she's in a series. So, it gives an impression of just a regular show. And then stuff starts, happening. And I'm like, oh, wow, like this is going to be legit. So I was like, oh, yeah, I really want to watch this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. And again, it comes on. It's gonna start streaming on Hulu on September 13th. So be on the lookout for that. Again, The Other Black Girl. And with that, y'all, that concludes our trailers portion of this podcast. Now we're gonna jump into all the good horror news that dropped this week, and it was a very light load on the horror news this week. We do got two very good stories to talk about here, and the first one It's about a new series that's coming to MGM Plus, and it's about Ed Gein. And the title of the series is Psycho: The Lost Tapes of Ed Gein, and it's going to be a 4-part docu-series about all of his horrific crimes. Now, Ed Gein's crimes have inspired characters such as Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, Norman Bates in Psycho, and Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This docu series is being directed and executive produced by James Buddy Day, and I wasn't fully familiar with the name, but James Buddy Day has done a lot of docu series, and if I just look at the previous producer and director credits, looks like he's done things such as or helped done things such as Myth of the Zodiac Killer, True Crime Story, Look Into My Eyes, Floribama Murders, Blumhouse's Compendium of Horror, The Anarchist, Catching a Serial Killer, Bruce MacArthur.
Wow,
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, a lot of producer and director credits for a lot of true crime related docu series. So very familiar with this world, and the ratings don't look too bad on a lot of these. So they know what they're doing. Now, the docuseries explores Gein's upbringing and twisted relationship with his mother, which famously inspired Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, of course. His early grave robbing, the murders leading up to his arrest, and the police's discovery of his terrifying house of horrors, all accompanied by the brand new revelations revealed in never before heard recordings. So it looks like they are going to be dropping some stuff that the world has not heard yet. So for all the the big true crime fans, I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about this.
They are.
Oh yeah, I don't watch too much. Like true crime docuseries. I watch some of the big ones every now and again, and I like to watch some of the stuff on YouTube. But I mean,
yes, you do.
Yeah, because sometimes the YouTube stuff is in the right bite size amount. But no, this sounds interesting. Especially considering that this individual, went. People use this to inspire a lot of their serial killer characters in their show. I think it'll be interesting to dive into this individual, and it's always a weird line, right? When you're watching these things, because you don't really want to like portray these series in a way where it's like glorifying them, Mm-hmm. But I think it's good to try to understand like what the hell happened in these situations. So I think from that standpoint, it'll be interesting, but I'm sure all the true crime people are going to be geeking out over this docuseries. But what did you think about when you heard this news, and were you familiar with like any of the Ed Gein's like crimes and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I know all about like his house and how he used to dig up bodies and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But I personally won't be watching this. I don't know. I just can't do true crime anymore. I used to I used to listen to podcasts, watch all the docuseries, like that was my thing. But I don't know, it just makes me feel weird now.
It's a lot.
Like, they actually have a short teaser trailer for this series, and they have like the tape playing. You can I think one of the people asked like, why did you do this, or what? No, he said, what were you thinking when you were digging up these bodies? And you can hear his voice on the tape, and he's like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah.
I just, and then also listening to his voice it gives me the creeps.
It's weird.
I personally I don't want to dive into that. All the true crime people, y'all can have it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot, man, to read about these horrific cases and all the horrible things that happened to some of these people. It's a lot. It's a lot to listen to, and a lot of stuff you sometimes will like stick with you, especially when you hear about really horrific stuff. Yes. Like it'll get trapped and
I agree,
stuck in your head, and it's hard to forget about it, and it'll mess you up. So,
too heavy for me.
Yeah, yeah. But for people who like to dive into the psychology of serial killers and why they do the things they do, I'm sure this docuseries will probably provide some good insight into a lot of these crimes. So. For all the true crime fans, I'm sure y'all be excited. And it releases on September 17th on MGM Plus. So make sure y'all get y'all subscriptions ready because September is rolling up on us real quick. But moving on to our last news story. Again, we said it was, pretty light on news this week. But this is actually a very interesting one that I didn't know about. And that's that the actress Bonnie Aarons is suing Warner Brothers. Now,
She getting her checked.
Now, if you don't know who Bonnie Aarons is actually the actress that plays the demon nun Valak in the Conjuring series. So she's actually played Valak in all the films that the Valak characters featured in. And I'm trying to pull up the article here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I wanted to walk through some of the elements of the article to talk about the lawsuits. I'm reading from insider.com, and I'll read you a little bit about the lawsuit that Aarons has, and I'll read you this a little bluff here. Aarons claims Warner Brothers didn't honor her contract when it came to compensating her for merchandise profits. Of course, Aarons first appeared in the second Conjuring movie, in which she played the demon nun Valak. She subsequently reprised her role in the prequel film The Nun and will appear as Valak once again in the upcoming The Nun 2, set for a theatrical release next month, being September. Per Aarons' suit, which is viewed by Insider, Warner Brothers hasn't paid Aarons her contractually required share of merchandising revenues. Aarons' contract stipulated that she received $71,500 for her work in the 2018 film The Nun, in addition to box office bonuses. But the suit alleges that Warner Brothers overlooked a key part of Aarons' contract, the right to receive gross receipts from merchandise featuring her likeness as the demon nun. The suit claims that Warner Brothers is exploiting Aarons by not paying her the full amount she should be receiving from merchandise. Instead of accounting and paying in a transparent fashion, Warner Brothers obscures and hides the true amount of Miss Aarons' rightful share of merchandising revenues, all while continuing to exploit her, the suit reads. And that is just kind of wild. Now, if this is true, right, that, she hasn't received any or not the correct amount that she's owed for merchandising, like, she need to get paid up, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, that part about them hiding and obscuring the true amount of the merchandising revenues is actually pretty believable, because you actually see a lot of studios who play that game with like film cost. They'll kind of manufacture the numbers to make it look like, the studio took a loss, even though they took, massive amounts of profits. So that honestly sounds very believable that the studio could definitely hide that, because they don't want to pay out like they should. And so if in that contract it says they are supposed to be paying, her from the merchandising revenue, and they can actually get the records and actually see the finesse game they're trying to play with the numbers and trying to hide, any profits that they're actually making from the merchandising, which they probably are. They're gonna try to hide that shit like they ain't making no money. But this actress deserves to get paid, especially. And I think it's actually in this article that I think it was let me read you this quote from the article. Peter Safran, who has produced all 8 films in the Conjuring franchise, was quoted in the suit praising the unique geography of Aaron's face and calling her a great fit for the role. And there's another point in the article where they kind of mentioned that, the Valak character is probably the most recognizable character from the franchise. If most memorable character from The Conjuring 2, to even have gone and spawn off 2 films for this character. So it's super unfortunate, and this shit does not surprise me. That's why we got the strikes going on, all those things, because, the studios are trying to use and abuse, filmmakers, writers, performers, and it's terrible, man. And so hopefully she gets the money that she's owed. But what did you think about this article when you heard about it, man?
Oh yeah, I was like, get your money, sis. Because I mean, actually, since we've both been, rewatching the movies, I didn't even realize how much she shows up in all the other films. I knew she was, heavily in the second one, but I didn't even realize even those small details of her in I just watched today. What was it? The Creation one. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like, so she need to get her money.
Yep.
And I believe you. I agree. They probably are not being upfront with how much they're making off merchandise, because I know I be seeing it everywhere I go. When we see merchandise, there be stuff in there. So I'm sure she's not getting her due money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, y'all. So definitely pay attention to this lawsuit, y'all. And hope we'll kind of try to stay up to date on it. But hopefully, this lawsuit will go in her favor and she gets the money that she's rightfully owed, because that character has become basically an icon for modern horror. So,
we talked about that not so long ago.
Yeah, we did. Yep. I mean, at least within the modern realm, Valak is a modern horror icon. I think she's recognizable across the board. Anybody knows who that character is. But yeah, y'all, with that actually concludes our news portion. And we only had 2 stories for y'all. It's a little slow week. But now we're going to roll into our main topic, y'all. And of course, it's going to be all about the Pope's Exorcist and his renewed life on streaming. So stay tuned. The main topic coming up right now. All right, y'all. So let's dig into the main topic for today. Now let's talk about the Pope's Exorcist, right? So this is a film that came out in theaters back in April. And it just dropped on Netflix in August, right? Like, it was like a week or 2 ago or something like that?
Last week, something like that, yeah.
And so now it's available on streaming, and it's basically got this new life on streaming. Now, this wasn't a very popular film box office wise. I had looked it up earlier. Worldwide, this film made $76 million. So it did not do big numbers at all. Now, the budget was only, I think, around $18 million. So, I mean, they definitely spun a profit off this film, more than likely. Even with marketing, I'm sure they still, made some profit. Just not a whole lot. It wasn't, I think even critically, it was not too great. Probably average at best for this film. Now, I think this is a very interesting case, right? And I think it speaks to the streaming age of film, to have this film get this new life on streaming. And it's funny because I think had it not, you would probably think that there wouldn't be a sequel for this film. They'd be like, oh, no one's really interested in this. But now it's popping off on streaming. They're probably looking like, oh, shoot, people want this. Now that people are recognizing it. If we did a sequel, they're probably going to go to the theater now for the sequel.
It was funny because I think I saw it on Reddit. Maybe it was Reddit, a Reddit thread. Because, I know we'll talk about the movie later, but I think in the end when they talked about how many, it was like 100. It was 200.
It was
right?
it was a
angels
ton.
That fell, and so it was only one that we knew about. So he was like, there's 199 left or something like that. So somebody was on Reddit was like, no, we need 199 more movies.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And I remember when I watched the film, I was thinking that if they wanted to spin a franchise, they can do this shit all day. They can even do a series, you know what I'm saying? Which it could work that way. Could you imagine like an exorcism series where each episode's a different case? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like that could actually work like really
X-Files.
good.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There's a podcast called The Exorcist Files.
Okay.
So that actually would be a cool
It could
idea.
work, man. I'm telling you, that could work. But yeah, so I mean, it's popping off. There's all these articles coming out everywhere. Like there was a Dreaded Central article where they're talking about how some of the fans were comparing it to National Treasure, and it became like the #1 movie on Netflix, and there's just a lot of excitement and talk about this film. It was just kind of shocking. Like, dang, I was not expect people to talk about this because it wasn't getting a lot of love when it came out in theaters originally. People, if anything, people were joking on it because they're talking about Russell Crowe's shitty accent and stuff like that. So, but anyway, let's get in. We'll do, and this is gonna be spoiler filled, y'all. So if you haven't seen the film yet, make sure you go and watch it. It is on Netflix. Go check it out real quick. Pause the podcast, and then come back and join us as we talk about this film. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give a quick overview, a quick overview of like what happened in the film, and then Kristie and I will jump into kind of our thoughts and what we liked about the film. Now, here's the basic overview, right? So the movie opens with Father Amorth being called to an emergency exorcism, and he's using his medallion to see how possessed the guy is, how he responds to the medallion. He figures he isn't truly possessed, and so he kind of tricks him into thinking that he cast a demon outside of him into the pig, and it's shot and killed. And then we see this mom and her 2 kids moving to Spain into a dilapidated abbey because it was left to her by her late husband, and they don't have anywhere else to go. And the plan is to fix it up and then sell it, make some money. And then we have that like typical like horror movie trope where you got like the daughter's got an attitude because she moved, she all pissed off and moody, the moody, angsty teen. And then we have a boy who's like in explorer mode and he's exploring the new location. And so you already know that means he's going to stumble onto some shit. And he ends up somewhere he shouldn't be, y'all. So he finds like a hole in the wall in the lower level of the house, and he sees what looks like a symbol of the Vatican on a wall. And then we cut to Father Amorth. He is sent before a panel of priests who pretty much want him to stop practicing. And he's like, hell nah, y'all don't run me. I go where the Pope tells me to go. Right. And then he's like, what y'all need to be worried about is the investigation of a girl who was abused by someone within the church. Instead of worry about what I'm doing. Telling me, look, y'all got your priorities fucked up. Now, we see the family start realizing things are happening at the abbey, right? The boy is showing signs of possession. And he asks for a priest. And they call the priest. They call a priest that we saw earlier in the movie, but he's like, nah, that's not the right priest. And he's later called by the priest to go to Spain to help the family out. Father Amorth is called there. And the Pope warns him that he's dangerous. When he gets there, things start to ramp up. It's clear that this possession is real. He used that medallion, and we saw like the demon eyes just like separate, follow the medallion. Father Amorth tries to prepare the other priest, Father Tomas, and insists on them continuing by praying and figuring out who the demon is. Later on, they discover catacombs underground, and they find out that the Spanish Inquisition was really led by is it Friar or Friar? Friar. Who was possessed,
basically another priest.
Yeah, who was possessed by the same demon. These demons were cast out and landed on Earth, and this demon is like the main head one. And in one of the books they found, they get its name. Armed and ready, they try to exorcise it, and it gets a hold of the sister Amy, and so Father Amorth tells it to take him to save the kids. They leave, and Father Tomas helps Father Amorth fight against the demon, and all is well. They get a green light from the Pope to find the other places that these demons landed and exorcise them all. That's pretty much how the film goes. Now, we'll get into what we liked about the film, and I'll just go first real quick since I'm already talking. I think overall, I thought the film was like, okay. Like, I thought it was kind of average. Like, I didn't think it was bad, but I don't think there was anything that was like great about it either. I walked away like thinking it wasn't very memorable. It's like a popcorn Exorcist flick to me. It wasn't nothing super special about it. I did like the effects. I will say that. I liked the performances of the little boy. And I liked how they handled the effects of the possessions. I thought that looked really cool. And I did like the conclusion, like how I'll say it like effects heavy. Like it was almost like an anime, you know what I'm saying? Like how they, like how they gonna take this demon out. I was like, oh, this shit kind of hard. Like they turn, like some Constantine type shit. Like they, turning into like, almost like an action, like anime moment, trying to take me to exercise this demon. But yeah, overall, I thought it was just like your average exorcism movie. There was some funny moments in there. There was some kind of creepy moments. But overall, like, I mean, I think it's kind of forgettable. I don't even think I really thought about it anymore after I watched it. But yeah, it was just okay. What did you think about it? What'd you like?
Do you think I liked it?
I think you liked it.
I did.
I know you did. Yeah.
I thought it was good. I was surprised so many people did not like this movie.
Yeah.
I liked it. It actually reminded me a lot of the one you fell asleep on.
The Right. I knew you were going to say that.
The Right.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's got 2 priests and all
because it's got 2 priests and he also got possessed, the same way.
Yep.
And the other one had to help him exercise it. So it was very similar in that way. I like Russell Crowe. I mean, I don't know what his accent's supposed to sound like, but I thought he did good.
Well, yeah, I think if you don't know what it's supposed to sound like, you don't roll with it. Like, that sound right to me. I don't know. Yep.
I thought he was, funny. And, I feel like the moments where he was funny fit. It wasn't like it didn't stand out like out of place or anything to me. It's like you said, I really like the effects that they used. The little boy, he looked really cool.
Yeah, I did. I like that possession effect. Yep, that was good.
Yeah, in the beginning when the people are working in the abbey and they realize that something's going on in there because the dudes used the fire. They was like, "Oh yeah, we got to go. We gotta go. Like we out of here. Yep. We can't help you no more." Right. That was funny. I didn't really understand why. And I told you this when I watched it. I was like, why does mama take her kids here? Like, it seemed like such a bad place to take your kids. Mm-hmm. And I understand the whole concept of, we don't have no money. And I'm like, I would do everything I could with, without having to take my kids to another country and live in a place like that.
Right.
I don't know. That was weird. But I get that's the whole point of the movie, right? But I just feel like it didn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't really like that whole, the trope with the daughter having like this badass attitude. I'm like, why are you giving your mama such a hard time? Yep. Like, just help her out.
She's trying to do best she can.
She obviously stressed.
That's just how teenagers act, though. They just be acting stupid.
Trash. And then I just liked everything. It was funny. Somebody put like a screenshot of because they were watching it with subtitles, and at the bottom when like the music plays, it says ominous music playing, and so they were like, "Let's see how many times this says this." And so when I watched it, I did, and it was a lot.
Yeah, I believe it.
It was funny. So it was a whole lot of that ramped up like violin music or whatever. But other than that, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did like Russell Crowe's like character. Like I like the vibe of his priest style, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a John Wick priest, you know what I'm saying? Like super confident, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like chill and cool and like some funny like quips here and there. So I think that was cool. And that's why I think that like this could work as like a franchise. Like and that's why I mentioned a series earlier, because I can honestly see this being like a series where each week it's a different like case.
Yeah.
And they got to figure it out, and it's something crazy. But I guess my thing is like, and we'll get into this when we do our ranking video of The Conjuring, right? But it's like that issue with sequels, and that's like when you're making the sequel, you don't want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But when it comes to exorcisms, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's like what else could
you
do?
What could you do differently? It's gonna be this. You're gonna have your Bible. You're gonna have your typical prayers. Like what can you do differently? So I feel like that's where it becomes hard, because then you got to try to like up it. Right? There's gonna be some more extreme CGI creatures or monsters, or they got to take it to a whole different level, which could mess with the vibe. So I don't know. Like, while I think it could work as a franchise, I think it might be hard to figure out, okay, well, like what do we do now? Because it's basically all the same.
Well, it might have to be something similar, like how you brought up Constantine. It might have to be something similar to that. Whether they were to do another film, show multiple small things, and then maybe there's some kind of like undercover plan of some sort or whatever. Because obviously, we can see that this demon was, intelligent. There was a hierarchy of some sort. So they could dig more into that. And I also thought it was interesting how they brought in like the historical element of the Spanish Inquisition and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool.
It's going ham. Discovering no wonder why they perverted Christianity, or they just
so crazy
going ham in the name of the religion. No,
I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
But
thinking about what you just said, I'm thinking about it, right? And they could do some crazy stuff with it if they take his character, who has this like almost like bravado priest feel, as like an older man bravado priest feel, like speaking like the hierarchy, right? Well, he can go to like they could do it like this. I think it's gonna be kind of hard. He go to like the level. Let's say he got to like go to the lower level demons, right? Like, oh, where's your head demon of your gang over here? And he has these weird like holy torture methods. It's like he got imagine he got like a water basin of holy water, right? And he slammed his head in that holy water, burn him a little bit. Like, you gonna talk now? Like, that could kind of go hard. I don't know. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I feel like but see, that's what I'm saying. They have to come up with stuff like that. Like, or now he got these new tools for exorcism. They're like,
you've been watching too much Supernatural.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, see, exactly. Like, if you watch Supernatural, like when the British men of letters come in, they got all these crazy gadgets. Like, that type of shit might be kind of cool. But yes, but they're gonna have to do stuff like that because they can't do the same thing and be like, all right, it's kind of boring. We just did the same. We just did this. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was okay. Like, yeah, and I think because it was cookie cutter probably up until like the end, right? I really feel like it's the end that makes it a little bit different. When we talk about like the hierarchy, historical influence, and then like the very like almost like fantasy element of how they exorcise and kill the demon. I feel like that's where
that was really cool.
Yeah, it did look really cool. And I feel like that's where it diverges, but everything else is pretty like routine, you know?
Yeah. I got you.
But I like the character though. I like the portrayal. I'm with it. But I think that's why it's just okay. Maybe the next one could be better if they decide to do a sequel, but they might do a sequel now because people's going crazy over this thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. For sure.
Which is so crazy, man. That just really speaks to the fact, like, I'm so impressed. Like, it really speaks to the fact of how films can get this new life on another service. Yeah. You know, we see that with TV shows they were canceled on one service and then they got hyped up and another service brought them back and it became a mainstream show again. So
my fingers are crossed about Archive 81. Please.
Fingers crossed, y'all, for Archive 81. We gotta get that back. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's kind of what we think about the film, y'all. I think it's okay. Kristie says she really likes the film. I don't think that it's horrible, but we'll see. We'll see if it turns into a whole ass franchise. But let us know in the comments, y'all, what y'all think about the Pope's Exorcist. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's your favorite parts? And what would you want to see in a sequel or franchise? You want a movie? You want a series? Let us know in the comments below. Now, what we're going to do next is actually get into kind of like the true story. So the actual story behind Father Gabriel Amorth. So I got a little write-up here that we did, and I'll just kind of walk through that. And then we'll discuss along the way. So we start with Father Gabriel Amorth was a real person, y'all. So it really was based on a true story. He was actually the Vatican's chief exorcist assistant in 1986. He was 61 years old then, and this movie takes place in 1987. Unlike the movie, he had no prior experience as an exorcist. He trained under the chief exorcist, Candido Amontini, until he passed away in 1992. Then Father Amorth took over as the chief exorcist. He served as the chief exorcist for the Diocese of Rome for 24 years until his death in 2016. He had conducted over 70,000 exorcisms. Do y'all know how much 70,000 is? That's crazy.
Okay, so I do want to make a note. So some of those exorcisms were done on, I don't know how many, it doesn't say. Some of those exorcisms were done on the same people, he said. Obviously, I mean, it wasn't that big of a amount, so it's still a lot.
It's a lot.
A lot of people, right? Yeah. But yeah, so that number does include where if he had to go back and
redo it,
because he did say that sometimes it takes a long time, and then sometimes people would be exorcised, but then get repossessed,
which is crazy.
Which I thought was crazy.
Yeah. They just can't escape it.
They can't escape it.
Now we actually watched a documentary about Father Amorth some years ago when we had watched the original Exorcist. We had saw how he conducted exorcisms. And in 2015, Father Amorth sold the rights of his life for this film, and he was hoping that the films made about him would be an accurate depiction of his life. but obviously they weren't because it's Hollywood and they got to Hollywoodify the story because they got to make it over the top.
Yeah.
Now, while the film is inspired by the life of Father Amorth, much of what we see in the film is not truly accurate and takes pieces of the truth and melds them into a fantastical representation of the truth. So earlier in the film, we saw the one guy who seemed possessed but wasn't, and Father Amorth telling that panel of priests that many of the cases he has are of mental illness and not possession. That is actually true. Father Amorth has been quoted saying, often an exorcist is able to understand himself if there is an evil spirit or a psychological problem. It depends on the reaction the person has. When they have been possessed by the devil, they speak languages they don't know. If they are blessed, they become furious. The depiction of Father Amorth was not accurate. Him riding around on a scooter. Oh, I forgot about that. That was actually hilarious. I don't know why, but seeing him on that scooter was so funny. Him riding around on a scooter with the red socks and the cool sunglasses, listening to pop music and all that. I also watched an interview of a priest who talked about him, and he said he was a true man of God, and his portrayal of him as a person was not accurate at all. He was reported as being against things like Harry Potter. He said it was evil and covert and encouraged children to accept things like magic and spells and yoga because of its roots in Hindu worship. But he did have a sense of humor. In the documentary that we had watched, we saw Father Amorth making faces and jokes at the start of his exorcism. We saw that a lot with Catholics and Christians back in the day with all types of things, being the devil, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Harry Potter, you name it.
But I did read this article about Russell Crowe. Well, he was talking about the film, and he said he kind of like based the whole like riding around on a scooter and stuff like that on because he went to Spain, so he kind of like based it off of seeing other people riding on scooters, and they're like dressed up, and because he had on his priesthood stuff. So, people going to work and stuff look nice. They had to ride around the scooter. So he kind of based that part off what he saw there. Yeah. And not really so much from the actual Father Amorth. So, yeah. I mean, he was just going based off the culture, I think.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. And
then he put his own flair on there. Like, he got out, took his hat off, and he was like rubbing his hair, like make sure he looked good.
Right, yeah. He definitely added like a certain swag to it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there's a Netflix docuseries called Vatican Girl, the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandini. Orlandi, my bad. And it goes into detail of this girl who was assaulted multiple times by someone close to the Pope. The real Father Amorth claimed that she was taken to be used by the Vatican police and then murdered. He also said foreign diplomats were involved. It's this that most likely reflects the story of Rosaria in the film and why he brought it up during that panel discussion in the beginning of the movie. So that section was actually based off of a real life story. And that honestly doesn't even surprise me.
It doesn't.
Nope.
And it's very honorable of him because even though he was a part of the church, he still spoke up against people within the church.
Because they ride or die for each other over there. So the fact that he was bold enough to be like, that shit ain't right, even amongst that group, that's actually real noble of him. Now, throughout the ordeal with Father Amorth and the demon, he is faced with guilt dealing with World War II. The real Father Amorth did indeed fight in the war. He was drafted at 18 by Mussolini's regime, and he later joined a resistance unit once the Nazis were trying to take over Italy. But there are no reports to substantiate that this was used against him in any way as it is depicted in the movie. Looking at the biggest part of the movie, Henry's possession is not real. Henry, Amy, and Julia are all fictional characters. The abbey that housed this great demon lord that wanted to lure Father Amorth to it and everything about this main plot is not real. There are no reports or articles from Father Amorth that are similar, and this abbey doesn't actually exist. And there are no reports that a friar was possessed and convinced Queen Isabella to start the Spanish Inquisition. He also never claimed to allow anything to enter his body. At the movie's closing, we see a clear sequel set up, and it claims that Father Amorth and Father Tomas became a demon-fighting duo in a sense, but that is not true either. That works, though. I'm telling you, man, that's serious. I'm telling y'all. Now, he did work with individual priests from time to time, but nothing like what the film was alluding to at all. He also talked about the exorcisms he took part in, and of course, they are nothing like Hollywood presents them to be, with people and things flying around the room and people projectile vomiting everywhere. And obviously, these are all elements that Hollywood added for dramatic effect because they got to go big or go
Gotta go
home.
big.
But yeah, that's actually a little breakdown, a little like insight into the real life Father Gabriel Amorth. We thought it'd be kind of cool to dive into the actual story because we see a lot of stories. I think the Conjuring universe is probably the biggest one.
Big one,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
they're most recent as well. Of the Warrens, and so it's always interesting to see, like, based on a true story. And most of the time, it's going to be a lot of fictional stuff added because they're trying to make the movie
fluff,
like interesting and hyped up, and we have a certain expectation as audience members anyway. So we thought it'd be cool to dive into what was real, what's not, and learn a little bit about this gentleman. But that is the Pope's Exorcist, y'all. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else to conclude this, man.
Well, I don't know. It did make me feel a little sad to know that, he sold his life's rights to thinking that this was going to be kind of like truth to what he did and all the things that, he accomplished as an exorcist. And it kind of makes me a little bit sad that they didn't try to, stick. I know you gotta make stuff, nice for Hollywood purposes or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like there should have been some kind of honoring to his wanting that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't think that's really fair. I mean, it's nothing you can do about it because he's given them the rights to do whatever. So I don't know. It just makes me a little sad about that.
It does make it a little sad because it almost makes you feel like he's taken advantage of,
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of a similar story to what we just talked about in the news with, Bonnie Aarons and her situation, like these studios taking advantage of a situation to make money off of. And so, like, when you put it that way, it is sad, right? Because you almost wonder, like, if he could, come back real quick and see the film that's about him, he'd be like, the fuck
what
is this? Like, I thought we were going to make like kind of a more serious, film, like a more legit, like, examination on religion, exorcism, like something that's got a little bit more, like, more like gravitas, like more like, just a little bit more deep, like, moral examinations, like, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing that's just like this surface level, like, exorcist or exorcism film. So when you put it like that, it is weird.
Things like, it is like, I was thinking about the certain parts in there, like, how they were seeing these women and like for Father Tomas, it was like this naked girl that he supposedly had been with. All you see is her big titties the whole time. So like, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. Afterwards, I reflected back, and I was like, I don't think he would have liked that.
Nah, we gotta take that out. Like, we gotta take that part out, y'all. We're tempting the audience with lust. He probably wanted that part out.
Yeah, I don't know. And then I was reminded of him when I watched some of the video clips, and he just seemed like such a very sweet person.
Yeah, he did.
Like a really kind man. And I don't know. I just feel a little bad.
Yeah. I feel like there's definitely a lesson to learn here, and that's just do not sell your life rights away for no movie because they gonna take that shit and just do whatever they want. Because ultimately, the only goal for these Hollywood studios is to make money. They can give a F about anything else.
Yeah, and I told you, like, right? I think people are searching him. Searching as our 6-year-old say, or 7. He's 7 now. Searching him up. Yep. People are searching him up now. And, he's maybe that part is good. People are actually discovering who he was and learning about what he did. And that also adds another level to the movie and beyond the movie, what's real when it comes to, angels, demons, religion. Because he was this real person. I guess it's up to what you believe, right? And I don't know, but And these cases that he documented were real enough to him anyway for him to have a daggone job doing this every day. So I don't know. It just kind of opens up another bigger conversation, when it comes to those things. But that's it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. No, you're 100% right. But y'all let us know, for our listeners, let us know what you think about this situation. Drop down in the comments what you think about. Do you look at it like as him being taken advantage of, or do you look at it like a deal is a deal? You sign it away, they can do whatever they want. And then what's your overall thoughts of the film, the Pope's Exorcist, and its relation to the actual true story of Father Amorth? And just let us know your general thoughts on anything within this podcast episode, because this is the conclusion of today's episode, y'all. If you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you so much for tuning into the entire thing. We greatly appreciate that.
Yes,
and while you're at it, go ahead and leave us a rating. So if you're listening on Spotify, listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and drop us a rating on both of those apps. We really appreciate that. That helps with the visibility and get more people to listen. And then also just make sure you're subscribed and following us on all social media. Follow us on the podcast apps. Follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X, wherever they're calling it now. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe.
Is it called X?
I think it's called X. I'm pretty sure that's what they're calling it now.
I was thinking it was just the logo. So it's actually called X.
I'm pretty sure they're calling it X.
That is so weird.
I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just going to keep calling it Twitter.
No, you might be right. I don't know. I don't be keeping up with it.
I'm just going to keep calling Twitter because that's just but again, y'all, hey,
yes.
Yeah. Thank y'all again so much for tuning in, y'all. And again, just as a reminder, make sure y'all subscribe to the YouTube and everything, because we got some fire content that's going to be coming. We got some movie reactions going to be dropping. We got the Conjuring universe ranking video is going to be coming out. And they're also going to be doing a Saw ranking video as well. So some fire content coming, y'all. So make sure y'all subscribe and staying tuned in, because we got some good stuff coming, y'all. But we'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace.